On today's episode of You Asked, why don't all giant TVs come with legs that can just sit the TV on the floor? Filmmaker versus movie mode, and should you still be buying 2024 TV models? Welcome back to the channel, everyone. This is You Asked, the show where we answer your tech questions. If you've got something you want to know, send your question in to youasked@digitaltrends.com, and don't forget to tune into the show to see if your question has been selected. Brandon Chappell 1535 says, my TCL has Filmmaker Mode. Is this considered to be better than movie mode as it's more accurate? Well, Brandon, you actually answered part of the question there. More accurate? Objectively, yes. It's designed to be more accurate to how the content is created. Motion processing is turned off, colors and color luminance are more accurate. Basically, if you want closer to the cinema experience, that's what Filmmaker Mode is for. But we'll come back to that in like 30 seconds because there's a little bit of a caveat. You also asked, is it better? That part's more subjective. If you're an absolute purist who wants to see the movie as intended, you'll find it better, but you may need the right conditions to find it enjoyable. That caveat I referred to is Filmmaker Mode usually isn't as bright as movie mode, and certainly not as bright as the other modes on the TV. So if you're in a bright room, or it's an older movie remastered for HDR and it's just not punching like it should in terms of brightness, you should reserve the right to jump out of Filmmaker Mode if you need to. I always switch my TVs and my parents' TVs when I was just visiting them a couple weeks ago. You're welcome. Out of standard mode. But recently I was watching a remastered version of one of my favorite movies ever, Heat from 1995, and I actually needed to go to standard mode. It hurt, and maybe there was something going on with the version that I was watching on Plex and whatever server it was coming from, and maybe it wasn't being processed as well as if it were coming from like an HBO Max or something like that. But either way, it just wasn't as bright as it should have been. And I know it from seeing the movie several times before. So more accurate? Yes, but better depends on your viewing environment. Movie mode can still get you an accurate, not overly processed, but bright enough image that you'll enjoy. But it is nice that TCL finally added Filmmaker Mode last year. Also, for the Heat fans out there, I don't know if y'all know, but there is a Heat 2 apparently on the way, and the cast looks insane. Leonardo DiCaprio and Christian Bale are confirmed, but guys like Adam Driver and Austin Butler and more also have their names connected to it, so looks like a banger. Plus, Michael Mann is back to direct. I can't wait. Okay, back to questions. Victor Johnson, in response to our video about best big screens, asks, why don't these giant TVs just come with legs, like 18 to 24 inch legs so that they can just sit on the floor? This seems like a no-brainer accessory to me. So I do agree with this for the most part. That would make sense, and it definitely made sense for the 115-inch TCL QM891G that we had a couple years ago. That thing was ridiculous, and the legs felt like a must-have with its weight. Even when we moved it out of the studio, we kept the legs on it because it was just so tough to move and stand up and store otherwise. Not to mention all the work we put into getting that TV onto the legs, it just felt crazy to take them off. But then there was the Hisense 110UX. Not quite as big, but somehow it did not need those massive legs. And as ridiculous as it may have looked, we were able to get it onto a media console. Proper viewing angle and all that aside, I preferred that because it was a better use of space. Having big legs under your screen means you probably won't be able to get any storage under it. If you have a soundbar, where's that gonna go? I would assume that most of these larger-than-life TVs are going in a dedicated theater room or something, so maybe you don't mind the look, but in a functional living room where there are other things like speakers and game consoles, a Blu-ray collection, all that kind of stuff, it makes sense for it to be stored around the TV. And I think big legs prevent that. It's also not a great sight. I know that would never fly in my house. Not to mention, shipping the TV with bigger, thicker legs adds to the production cost and the price you pay for the TV and shipping. Now, maybe that doesn't matter if you're already spending more than 10 grand for a TV, but still, it seems a little unnecessary. I don't know. Maybe I'm totally off base here, so you guys let me know your takes in the comments. I just think unless the TV is so heavy and so thick that there's no way that 2 feet could support it on a media console, you either go that direction or mount it on your wall. Finally, a few quick questions and answers. First from this username, which feels like a bot, but I'll allow it. Is it worth buying the Hisense U7N in 2026? And how good is it for gaming with the PlayStation 5? Well, if you can find one, yes, it's still worth buying. I was actually exchanging emails with a gentleman who had a question in a previous episode, and we both agreed it's always best to try avoiding the urge to always have the latest and greatest. It'll definitely save you some money. So yeah, even though the U7N is a 2024 model, it's still a good one that supports 4K 120Hz gaming, the max output from the PlayStation 5. But like I said, you may not be able to find one. It was replaced by the 2025 Hisense U7QG, and even that one may see its numbers dwindle a bit as the new 2026 lineup makes its way into stores this year. However, if you do find a U7N or any 2024 model, hopefully you get a great price on it. Robert Zenefel asks, is there an 85-inch OLED TV currently on the market? Hey, that's how the question was written. Maybe speech to text, maybe interpreted from a different language, although I do think OLED would be a great TV name. I'm assuming he meant OLED, and not to my knowledge. There are 83-inch OLEDs, there are 85-inch mini LED TVs, but 83 inches is the more common OLED size because it makes for a more efficient way to cut the mother glass where these panels come from. By going with 83 inches instead of 85, that leaves an appropriate amount available for screens and other things like phones and tablets and smaller monitors. That's it for this week, guys. Thanks as always for tuning in. I should also mention that it's a great time to get subscribed with some new content on the way from a few new hosts on the channel. We appreciate you being here, and we'll see you again soon.